century working with John Maxwell, the person that's probably made more impact in my life than anybody not named Cindy, right? And it's so fun to have this conversation. Mark, what I've been doing with these conversations, Cindy and I, over the last several months to really promote the Leadership Legacy experience that you're going to be with us at in 42 or 43 days, is to have the person that I'm talking with, be it a partner, an executive panelist, whomever, share a little bit about their professional background and their experience in their respective industry. Would you mind doing a little bit of that? And then I'll kind of toss some questions at you.
Well, you've kind of said my name to claim right there with 25 years. I have sat beside or observed for 25 years one of the greatest leadership thinkers, one of the greatest leadership communicators, and one of the leadership application people in the world in John Maxwell. And so really my claim to fame, I have watched leadership work behind the scenes and on stages for 25 years. And the last 15 years as John's CEO has been incredibly interesting from a leadership incubator standpoint. I really, truly have watched leadership play out, I believe, more than anybody else in the world. The last 15 years have been notable in that 15 years ago, John saw something in me in the developing of me, because I started as a telesales representative. After 8 promotions, John, on my 9th promotion, said, I want you to be the CEO of our 3 companies. And so I started in 2010, becoming John's right hand and his CEO of our 3 companies. 5 years later, we had 7 companies that are still in existence today. And the net revenue, or the gross revenue, of each one of those 7 are bigger than the aggregated, the compiled revenues of the 3 when I first started. So we've had years of growth. We've grown our team. We've exploded our influence. Our nonprofits are doing things now that are remarkable in the sense of there's nobody pioneering where we're pioneering. And so I've experienced a lot of startups. I've experienced a lot of explosive growth environments. I have a whole library of things not to do as a leader. And so I'll tell you, Wes, I come equipped to the Leadership Legacy event with you and Cindy, ready to give you fumbles, flops, and failures, and some of the greatest experiences I ever dreamed possible.
Mark, that's powerful. I remember in 2014 was the first time I heard you and David on a Maximum Impact CD that I had at the time with Mark. And that's the first time I met you distantly. Yeah. I was driving in my vehicle. I remember where I sat at the time when I heard your voice for the first time. So that was my introduction to you. And you just shared that background. Leadership is very, very hard. Right before we got on this call, I had a conversation with one of my closest friends. He owns a company. He said, man, there's some rough days in leadership. And it was emotional. And I said, yes, it is. And these relationships, we've got to have a purpose and those relationships to be willing to go through it. What was it for you to take on that and go through those extra steps and really accept that responsibility that comes with being that CEO and now owning all of the fiduciary responsibility for what is Maxwell Leadership?
Well, and before I say that, Wes, you said something very important to all your listeners and all the people that I want to come to the Legacy event. And that is, leadership is extremely tough. In fact, the most noted leadership guru in the world, recognized by Forbes and Fortune and American Business Management Association, John Maxwell, says there's no 2 good consecutive days in a leader's life. Wes, I've quoted that, you've quoted that, but you know what we've done more than quote it? We've lived it. There's no 2 good consecutive days. I was up this morning celebrating 25 years. I was up at 1:30 this morning saying, should I even be leading right now? I feel like that somebody could lead much better than me. So to your friend and to anybody else out there listening that goes, man, today, Mark, it's good to hear you because it's a good day. Or for those of you that said, if I have to hear one more person use the word leadership, I'm going to use some words my own self that I don't want to use, because that's the paradox of leadership. And I would just want to relate with anybody, the thing that makes a difference now is the answer to your question. It is waking up every day determining that I have not arrived and that there is a lot more for me to learn. And any leader from John Maxwell, 78 years old, Wes, 29 years old, you're welcome, Wes, or me in between that. Every one of us can never lose the commitment to grow and to challenge ourselves to become better. 25 years ago, when I started in the stock room with a little desk and a phone in the stock room, no AC, because they didn't have any place else to sit me. And when I sat down there and I realized that I was getting ready to do something that I had never done, and I was getting ready to have an opportunity to carve out opportunity for me to expand and grow, I sat down and I began my journey there. This morning, 1:30 this morning, when I woke up and was thinking through a particular challenge I'm working through today, I thought the same thing. I'm getting ready to learn a lot from having to lead through this very difficult challenge. And I think the difference maker from sustained success is people that never lose the heart and the passion and the curiosity of, what am I going to learn from this success, or what am I going to learn from this failure? And the person that does that, I believe, are the people that experience sustained success.
Mark, that encompassed the answer to the question I was going to ask after that. So I'm going to skip it because I often ask folks that are in ownership roles, that are in even mid-level supervisors to high-level managers, executives, what motivated you to develop as a leader, not rest on your title and position? You just covered that in intricate detail, and thank you for that. I said as I introduced you that I've got so much respect and admiration for you. I mean, I've often heard the phrase that don't get too close to your heroes because they'll let you down. And for 25 years, I remember right after Cindy and I got married, I read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership for the first time. And it changed my life in that I was barely high school educated. I kind of slept through school and did a bunch of shenanigans that I'm happy I lived through. But I just couldn't pull anything useful from it. I'm a high D in the DISC scale and so on. I like getting results. But I remember reading the 21 Irrefutable Laws, easy for me to say, and saying, I can apply this over time. This matters. And I've had so much admiration for John, and often the successor drops the ball. I've studied you for the last decade plus that we've been around you. I know it's not been close, but I'll say I've never seen you let me down. I've got sticky notes on the bottom of my monitors with quotes that I've heard you say. That's admiration. And more importantly, I've never seen you push to say, hey, I'm John number 2. You're Mark. And quite frankly, I still today think you're too humble. I wish you were more public facing in that. But can you talk to us about why you were willing, when Wes has been poking to say, Mark, will you write the foreword for What's Killing Your Profitability? Mark, do you want to come speak for us for the 2025 Leadership Legacy? And more recently, I said, hey, would you be willing to consider it again in 2026? Why have you been willing to even consider doing those things with us?
Well, so let me answer that in 2 ways, because I do want to answer the leadership question that you're trying to go, what is it that's waking you? But I want to tell you why I'm coming and I'm going to be a part of Leadership Legacy is because of Wes Dove. I find people that are going in the direction that I'm going, that are passionate about the people that I'm passionate about, and wants to make a difference for the people where they share influence and share responsibility of raising the tide of leadership in their community. And those are the people where I spend my time. I'm not the professional speaker that John is. I am an applicator. I am an applier of leadership content and speak all over the world with that. And the reason that I am coming and I'm going to be a part of Leadership Legacy is because that's what Dove Development is doing. That's what Wes and Cindy are doing. And that's where I want to spend my time, is with people like you. See, Wes, here's what I know. We're going to have a great event in a few weeks, but it's going to start a process for many in that room. And I'm about people that want to take a journey, not people that want to have an experience. And so for me, when you told me the design and the desire of Leadership Legacy, that's where I want to be that day. There's no other place in the world, including a golf course or a great beach destination, than I would rather be with you guys, because of the desire and the outcome expected from the Leadership Legacy event. Let me go back and answer that from a leadership perspective as well, because at 5 years of age, I knew that I loved telling people what to do. I knew even more that I loved when they did it. So in other words, there was something I was born with that I loved to have influence. Now, I didn't know how to frame that at 5 years of age. In fact, I didn't know how to frame it until 17 when I read my first John Maxwell book called Developing the Leader Within You. And I realized, oh, what I really liked at 5 and all the way through childhood into adolescence, what I really liked was influencing people to become better, to make good decisions, to invest in themselves, to bet on themselves. So at 17, I determined that. But it was at 30 after I had forgotten for 13 years, I had forgotten to develop myself on the inside, which was the challenge from that book. And I spent all of my time developing myself and my image and my perception on the outside. That at 30 years of age, 13 years later, I crashed and burned in the area of leadership, so much so that at 30, when I joined John's team 25 years ago, do the math, I'm 55. When I joined John's team, I said, I never want to lead again. I just want to influence people. I just want to let other people lead. If I get complimented on anything, and I bet some of your quotes are about that, and you even alluded to it, Wes, if I get complimented on anything in my leadership, it is about the authenticity with which I lead. It's how vulnerable I lead. Now, some people take that and go, wow, I wish you would be a little bit more forward with it. Thank you for that right there. I know the heart of that is, Mark, there's more in you. Step up and do it. I also appreciate the people that take that as a character comment. Man, Mark, you're humble. I appreciate both aspects. But you know what I appreciate about that compliment the most? Is what I learned at 30 years of age, 31 years of age, 32 years of age in leadership, that leadership is never about the leader. It's about the people impacted because of the leader. Always, every time, in every situation, it is always about. The problem with leadership now that's made us leadership sad is most leaders are about their agenda, and their agenda is about their successes and accomplishments and aspirations, and not about the people that they're leading. When you hear Wes and Cindy Dove and they come work with you, they're going to make leadership about the right thing, which is about the people being led, the ideas being populated, not about the leader's progress and success, because everything that we do about leadership is about others and the greatness that's in others.
I love your comment about you wanted to influence people, you didn't want to lead, but the reality is it's one and the same.
Yes.
And I've told people all the time, I can sit in my garage all day long and I'm never going to be a car.
That's exactly
Being a manager does not make me a leader the same way. It just is what it is. I've seen some high-level managers with a lot of responsibility impacting a lot of people, but in a very bad way because they're not leading. It's not about the people. It's not about the influence. Wow, what a powerful statement. Mark, you do so much worldwide, nationwide, and so on. What would you like the folks, anyone listening to this, anybody looking at, hey, should I come to the Leadership Legacy experience? What do you want them to know about you and Maxwell Leadership that they probably don't know or don't realize? What's behind the scenes?
Well, I believe that success is possible for every one of us. I think potential is in all of us. And I think realizing that potential, having personal success, brings success for those around us. And so when I come into an event like this, as I will with you guys in a few weeks, there is a challenge that I'm going to give you, and that is there is more success in you. Let's start there. I want to see you successful. I want you to be more financially successful. I want you to have a greater leadership opportunity to lead next month after I leave you than you have right now. There's an aspiration within every one of us that I want to awaken, challenge, and see you begin to fulfill intentional disciplines to accomplish the greatness that's within you. We're going to start with you. But the second thing that we're going to do is we're going to quickly challenge you to a concept that we believe is as important as success, and that is significance. I want to challenge you. This is why I love you and Cindy. I want to challenge you to awaken the significance in you so that you can realize success is what happens to you. Significance is what happens through you. Leadership is about becoming so successful that you become influential to others so that the success can be used for the benefit of others. And so when we come into a leadership legacy type event that you guys are putting on, I'm going to challenge you to, number one, start with you, become better. I'm going to challenge you to commit to you, which is take a next step. I don't know what that next step is. Wes, I've looked at you and said, we better have a next step, because I'm not coming if we don't have a next step for people. Mm-hmm. Because leadership growth is a journey, not a destination. You will start the journey of greatness when we're together, not end it. And so it's going to be the beginning for those of you that want to take a journey of success. And the final thing that I will challenge you to do is to take a high road of leadership. And what that means to us is make your leadership, as I said earlier, about those that you lead, about your community, about your family, about the team. Make it about others. And you will, as Zig Ziglar say, when you help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want.
Amen to that. Mark, I've had the chance to see, I've never been part of one because we're paddling our own little boat with both oars all the time. I've had a chance to see Maxwell Leadership do country transformation.
Yeah.
Can you give an example of some of the successes, more importantly, some of the impact that you've seen that have on communities and countries? Typically, I ask for folks to share this about their specific industry. Yours is not. You cover 8 streams of influence when you go into a country. Can you talk about that briefly?
Yeah, and let me say again, for those of you that are coming to the Leadership Legacy and those of you that are still on the fence, we're going to talk about your business, and I'm going to give you some skill sets that helped me start 7 companies, 5 of those, and then have each one of those bigger than all the others. So we will be very practical in that. But yeah, thank you for letting me talk about the significance part of what we do as well. Because just 3 weeks ago, I was with the president of Argentina. And he had heard about what we were doing in Guatemala, which, by the way, 22% of every citizen of Guatemala, there's 19 million people there, 22% of them have sat through one of our 13-week values-based roundtables. 21, almost 22%, guys. It's incredible what has happened. And so he's heard about that. He's heard about Paraguay, where in Paraguay, literally every public school in Paraguay is teaching the children in their schools Maxwell Leadership Values curriculum as a part of the core curriculum in their schools. By the way, we're doing that in 8 states here in the United States too. It's growing. It's exciting. But he heard about what's happening in Guatemala, what's happening in Paraguay, what's happening now in 6 countries, because out of 28 presidents and prime ministers that have asked us to come in and work with all of the 8 streams of influence that influence a community or a country. And when that president asked us to come in, we go through a process, and we've said yes to 6 of them. And so the president of Argentina invited us to come in and said, hey, I want you to talk to me about how we can get involved in being a part of transformation in Argentina. And so we said yes. We went down. He's ready. He's mobilized all the streams of influence leaders in Argentina. And so the end of September, beginning of October, we will take about 200 coaches of our certified coaches like Wes and Cindy. We'll take them in, and we'll train about 20,000 facilitators over a week's time that will take values-based curriculum, begin to learn and live, and then lead from them in roundtable communities that will then go. And by the time we will leave and come back to the U.S. in 2 weeks, we'll have over 125,000 women and men going through roundtables, leadership environments that are taught to learn it, live it, and then go lead it with another roundtable. And that's how we began this groundswell of truly transforming communities in our nonprofit.
It's hard for me to get my head around the impact that really is. I've heard it. I've seen it. I know folks that have been on those trips with you in Paraguay and different places around the world. And it's still, it just blows my mind about the impact. And we get to have that access here. Thank you for that. Mark, you mentioned 25 years ago today, you started with John Maxwell. 15 years ago, you stepped into the CEO role with John Maxwell. Talk about how the purpose that you've seen from John, the impact that you know he wants to have from his heart, really aligned with your own values and purpose to that point in your life, and how you guys have been able to implement that at all levels of the organizations, what you work to do for that.
Yeah, and so just 3 weeks ago, I was with the top 6 executives of Ashley Furniture. Here in the United States, it's a very large furniture company. In fact, they're the largest manufacturer of furniture. Home Depot, several others use their content white label or their furniture white label it. So they're the largest manufacturing, and I think they're the third largest retailer of furniture, $13 billion. They're on their way to a $30 billion, or excuse me, a $25 billion trajectory. And so they asked me to come in. I had lunch with their CEO and owner, and they asked me to come in and spend 2 days with them. And what I learned is while there's a lot more zeros in that organization than perhaps from many of the ones that are listening to our podcast or that are attending our events, the leadership challenges and the leadership solutions are very similar. They're scalable. And what I would challenge each of you that are leading or wanting to lead something significant, what I would tell you is the leadership principles that we've been applying around here for over 50 years of John's career, over the last 25 of mine, are both scalable and applicable no matter where you are in your leadership. The question is will you apply them? I mean, Wes and Cindy are pulling money out of their pocket, out of their account, out of their company to offer this community environment experience in a belief that the return may be monetary, but the return will absolutely be from a fulfillment standpoint, because great leadership fulfills your aspirations and then fills your bank account and some of the other things. And so what I have learned is no matter the level of people that I work with or talk with, the hundreds of people that will be with us at the Leadership Legacy event, Wes, some of your clients that you're working with, some of the big billion-dollar clients I work with, or some of the 5,000, 6,000 companies that I will work with this afternoon, or 5 or 6 million companies that I will work with this afternoon. Leadership challenges are the same. Leadership opportunities are there. And leadership success is attainable for people that will apply it, that will look for it, and that will allow others to coach them and mentor them along the way. And that reality, Wes, is what woke me up this morning with a challenge, and what got me out of bed this morning with an opportunity, and what will put me to bed tonight with a sense of fulfillment. Because leadership can be learned, leadership can be applied, and leadership can be transferred.
I'm going to use some of what you said already to frame this last question that I'll ask. Now, you mentioned values-based at the roundtables, at the different things that you're doing, both here in the States and worldwide. And you also said something about you said, hey, Wes and Cindy, you better have next steps or I'm not coming. Well, we have next steps, and I'll wrap up with some of that. But I'm going to share something that nobody knows, not named Cindy right now. On in the fall of this year, we're hosting an event that leads to the 2026 Leadership Legacy that we're planning right now. That's very values-based. Matter of fact, I'm within weeks of finishing up the manuscript for a book on how values are the foundation for every organization. And it's through a real case study experience that we've done and bringing in some of our clients and some different stuff like that. So that's the next steps. October 17th locally. Next year, we're working on the date, the May, June, July timeframe, to have part 2 of the Leadership Legacy experience and so on and so forth, that you've said, yeah, let me know the date and we'll see what we can do. With that in mind, that values-based idea, those next steps, what advice would you give to somebody that's young in their career and they're attracted by all the fluff that comes with leadership? What advice would you give them to really pursue, as opposed to getting lost in the I'm chasing the title or the position?
Well, let me qualify the answer first with my rags to riches story. I came to John's organization 25 years ago, and literally I was emotionally, relationally, spiritually, financially, I was broke. I literally do not know how they hired me. In fact, the guy that hired me gave me an opportunity. You mentioned him in our pre-conversation, David Hoyt. I called him this morning, as I do every May 1st of every year, and I said, thank you for betting on me when nobody else would. That's my going number with him. I wasn't worth betting on. I wouldn't even bet on myself. It's a whole nother conversation. But I'm going to tell you my rags to riches story, because now running 7 multi-million-dollar companies, greater success around the world than John Maxwell's ever had under the opportunity he's given me to lead, is because of 3 things that I started on day 1 of this journey. And they're still the things I do right now. And so every young aspiring leader or every accomplished leader that's not satisfied with today in hopes of a bigger, better, brighter tomorrow, there's three things. One is consume content. Consume content, eat it, consume it, hunger for it, look for it, drive for it, die for it, bet on it. Come to the Leadership Legacy event, bet on content because it's all about learning. Consume content, number one. Number two is pick an experience. Pick an experience. Find a place to model leadership. So get content. Wes has given you content in this podcast, in this little experience right here. Consume content, but also pick an experience, because while consuming content is about learning, picking an experience is about modeling. And it's not just enough to show or to tell about leadership. You need to be showing leadership. It's a show and tell. Leadership is a show and tell sport. You've got to tell it, but you've got to show it as well. Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do, leader. And then that brings me to number three, and that is get a mentor. Find somebody to be a guide to where you want to go. Often I find people that have already been there so they can tell me how to get there. Sometimes I find people that's never been there to tell me why they didn't get there. Oftentimes I find people that want to go there so we can get there together. But I always have a mentor. Always have a mentor. So get content, consume content, pick an experience, get a mentor, because everyone needs to learn and grow. Everyone needs a model, something to aspire to, and everybody needs a guide, somebody to be accountable to that is directing you where you want to go.
I'm almost in tears as I hear you say that, because I know the role that you've played for me and Cindy as that mentor. Sometimes it's in conversation. Sometimes it's through listening to, like Cindy shared with me just before she was listening as she was getting her bath this morning, a recent call where you talked about leading with numbers and profitability. And so many of those topics that you teach on, Mark, speak so dear to us. I'll share this as we wrap up, and you can add anything you want with that. I've never had direct supervisory responsibility of team members, but I've always held responsibility for getting financial results through a team of people that did not report to me, and in most cases had supervisors and managers that did not support them supporting me. So I had to develop that influence, and it was hard. And it really led, because we often hear the idea that leadership and communication, those are intangible. You can't really quantify it. And that's garbage. We can absolutely quantify it. And you wrote the foreword to the book called What's Killing Your Profitability on that. Do you mind touching on that before we call it done, on the whole idea of leading with numbers and profitability?
Well, yes, it's so many leaders, because we're missional. We speak servant leadership, and we get a lot of fulfillment out of transforming countries or adding value in nonprofit sector. But every leader has a commonality that, if not admitted, acknowledged, and cultivated, they're underachieving their leadership. And that is, leaders perform, leaders produce, leaders make others win. And winning is about knowing what KPIs, what measurements you're looking at for. And so oftentimes, especially in our world of government leading or in nonprofit or faith leading, we find people that just are so passionate about the mission, or business leaders that are so passionate about the culture. But make no mistake, the best leaders that sustain success for themselves and others are the leaders that know how to make things happen. They know how to produce. They know the dollars and cents. They know the numbers of their organization. I talk all the time about John's passion. He did not get into writing books to make millions of dollars. But you know who knows the exact number of books that have been sold by John Maxwell in the lifetime? It's John Maxwell. He knows every book. He knows every number, because numbers matter. And leaders that focus on numbers are leaders that will produce consistently over time. And leaders that produce consistently over time establish legacy so that others can produce as well. Leaders don't shy away from the dollars and cents. Don't shy away from the responsibility to produce, because that will be a differentiator between you and great servant leaders that just want to focus just on mission. When you can produce and appreciate mission and purpose, now you've got a recipe that others will be impacted by, but that others will want to model.
Mark, thank you for that. thank you for the time, guys. Anybody seeing this, we hope it serves you. If you can't make it with us, you should still try. But hopefully this serves you and gives you tools that you can apply. One of the things that Cindy and I've worked hard to do over the last 5, 6, 7 years is develop and really practice the law of leadership develops daily, not in a day. The law of progress, I believe that is. And in 2018, we started a course, and about halfway through the course, I thought, gosh, this is good, but it's not giving people as much as they need to continue the journey. And that's why we started our Leading at the Next Level program that's grown into this podcast format and so on. In that program, there's more than 160 lessons that Cindy and I've written over the last several years. If you'd like a 45-day access, if you're hearing this and you'd like a 45-day access to kick the tires, if you need continuing education credit, we've invested heavily, time and financially, to put that together. If you need continuing education credit, send me an email at admin@dove-development.net. We'll hook you up with a free trial, kick the tires, see what kind of value we can get. Mark, thank you. We love you. Thank you for the time. We can't wait to see you in person in just a few weeks and to be able to make the impact we know we're going to make with the folks that are able to be with us that day. It's shaping up to be a fantastic event. Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
God bless.